evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Luciano Nardo. I'm a consultant gynecologist and fertility specialist, and I'm the host of tonight's webinar. I got great pleasure in having with me Ian Stone. Ian Stone is a male fertility expert and coach. He's also the founder of Fertility and Wellness. He's considered to be one of the UK's leading fertility experts, and for many years has been helping couples, particularly men, wanting to start a family. Ian's mission is to improve the information and provide consistent, reliable, and evidence-based support for men during the period of investigations, but also during treatment and after treatment. We are facing a change in fertility, and there is more and more information available out there for men. And this is because there are people like Ian that are passionate about male fertility and that are able to share the message and inform men that want to start a family. So thank you, Ian, for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, really pleased to be chatting with you, and such an important subject that I'm so passionate about. So it's good that you're giving it some airtime as well.
Thank you. So let's just get straight into the subject here. And the first question I'd like to ask you is, how does infertility affect men?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It does affect men. I think it's kind of, society has led us to believe that fertility is a female issue. So from early doors, very first assessments, very first appointments with GPs, and then, eventually gynecologists, the focus is very, very heavily put upon the woman. The woman has, a raft of tests. The guy will have a semen analysis, and then the path very much kind of takes them down the road of IVF and gynecological care. And the long-term effects of that on a guy can be really detrimental. So, guys feel they have to stay strong. They have to kind of carry the burden of the treatment. They have to think about the finances, and they want to be strong for their partner, and they want to make sure she's okay and that she's been looked after. And so for a lot of that journey, a lot of that time, the guy is kind of doesn't feel like he can share how he's feeling and what he's going through. And I think over a long period of time, that has quite a detrimental effect on a man's kind of on his confidence, on his relationships, on his mood, his emotions. So fertility has a big effect on men, and they're not guys aren't encouraged to kind of speak up and ask questions and find out what's going on from their point of view. And it's I think it's very disappointing that guys end up feeling like a spare part through the whole equation. And this is assuming that kind of things are relatively okay when they do a semen analysis. You get the guys that are diagnosed with azoospermia, so no sperm in their ejaculate. They might get that news from their GP and are often sent off to say, well, there's nothing else we can do. You're gonna have to look at a sperm donor. That's absolutely devastating for a guy, to find out that they may never be able to father their own biological child. It has a huge impact, and I run a support group, or I run the infertility support group on behalf of Fertility Network UK, and we get a lot of guys joining us who have really been through the mill. And we've talked about suicidal thoughts. We've talked about men giving their wives permission to go ahead and file for a divorce because he can't father a child. So I think the societal kind of belief that fertility is just a female issue and that guys kind of have it easy, that guys just they just do that little bit in the pot and off they go. It couldn't be further from the truth. There are some guys maybe that just absolutely sail through it and they're okay and they're quite robust, but there are a lot of men where actually it does really, really affect them. And I think it's about time we kind of acknowledged that and then provided them with the support and guidance that they actually genuinely really need.
I see in my practice more and more men coming for consultation on their own, and there are certainly more men accompanying the partner at the time of the first consultation. So I think there is more awareness that the male infertility is a contributing factor
Mm.
to the inability of the couple to achieve pregnancy. It is, I am very pleased. It is certainly very important, the work that you and Fertility Network UK are doing in terms of raising awareness about male fertility and supporting men.
Mm.
But practically, where can men go to find the support, to find help?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, you know, and I think, you know, definitely things are changing. And, you know, I've been practicing 15 years, and my focus on men over the last few years, you know, I've really seen a big change, you know, and I know we've done things together in the past and talked about this subject, and there's so much more that's happening. And I think therefore through that, we're beginning to see extra kind of little pockets and resources turning up for men. You know, naturally, I would say the biggest kind of area or the biggest place for people to go is Fertility Network UK. You know, they are the leading charity for fertility issues in the country, and part of that is the infertility support group. So, you know, Rod Gilbert did this fantastic documentary, and that was released in 2021.
Yeah.
And that really, really highlighted things. But he kind of developed this whole campaign, and then wasn't really sure where to put it, you know, what to do with it. And that's when it got passed over to the charity. So we now run that, me, Toby and Rod. And that is a great place for guys to come and get that kind of peer-to-peer support, get that kind of advice, you know, just talk to other guys that are going through it. And it helps break down that stigma. It helps kind of get rid of the kind of isolation of, you know, feeling like you're the only one going through it. So I would definitely recommend that as a point of support for guys. But for them to kind of start looking around and seeing what else is out there, there are a couple of other kind of informal meetup groups that guys are starting to organise, maybe up in London. There's a guy in Wales that does bits and bobs. And consider looking, you know, further afield. So, you know, people like fertility coaches or nutritionists or acupuncturists or anyone that, you know, a guy would feel comfortable talking to and who is suitably experienced to kind of coach them and support them through that journey. You know, I think that's really important. But then also that is then coupled with medical support. And, you know, the NHS system at the moment and the NICE guidelines in the UK point any couple generally, pretty much generally, any couple with fertility issues, it points them down a gynecological route. And it's only if the guy is azoospermic that he may then end up in front of a urologist. And what I would encourage any guy to do is get thoroughly tested and go and see a urologist and get thoroughly tested, so that they've then got, you know, potentially got peer-to-peer support with something like infertility, and they have then got the medical knowledge of the tests, so that they can find out what, you know, what else they could be doing.
That's good. Thank you very much. I always suggest that the men that come to fertility clinic, they find some support, obviously, if there is an underlying problem, but generally they may benefit from couple support in terms of counseling and just perhaps joining some support groups. However, I think there is a need to separate and to make absolutely clear to the public that support is different from advice. And the advice that we give to our male patients often is guidance towards investigations, guidance towards treatment. But I strongly believe that to be receptive of that message, some men need to be prepared. Hence why the support sometimes is useful in making them realize the need for that sort of intervention. So clinicians, they must work side by side with coaches like yourself. What is your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to do you've got to do it all together. You know, we have a system at the moment where there is this disparity between male and female investigations. And, you know, as we've opened up this conversation, you know, there is an emotional impact for men around fertility. So yeah, definitely peer-to-peer support helps with that. And, you know, we get a lot of stories being shared in the support group and guys say, oh, actually, yeah, I've got this, and I found when I went to see so and so, this happened, and then that happened, and it does open men up to the idea of actually, oh right, oh okay, there's these other tests I can do, or there's these other people I can see, because at the moment they're not generally finding that information elsewhere. There are, people like yourself and other great medical professionals who are saying, right, go and do this, go and get tested and what have you. But I think when a guy is dropped into a support group or a network, where people are talking about this stuff, and he doesn't feel alone, and he doesn't feel like he's the only person on the planet with this problem, and there's other guys that have been through exactly the same or very similar, and then they've got advice about what they did and what helped, he is then more receptive, like you say, to then go and find out what he can do, and then go and get extra tests. What often happens, and I see this a lot in clinic, is it's the woman who does the research. It's the woman who's on Google. It's the woman who's on forums. It's the woman who's asking the questions, looking up the supplements, pointing the guy to, like, right, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it doesn't work, or it rarely works. And it creates friction in the relationship. The guy's thinking, well, what, why are you nagging me about taking these supplements? Have I really got to do this? My semen analysis was okay. What else do I need to do? So I think, opening up the conversation, creating support networks, having other professionals and all these people coming together to get this information across to guys and open up their minds to it, is making a massive difference.
Thank you. In your experience, what type of test, or what testing generally men are looking to have?
So typically men are going to be sent for a semen analysis. If a couple have been trying for a year or so, they rock up to their GP. The woman will be sent for her blood tests, so she'll have her hormone profile done, her FSH, her LH. She may be offered a high COSI. It's a very thorough investigation for the woman. The guy's offered a semen analysis, and generally that's it, and that's all that's provisioned for on the NHS. Now, semen analysis is a good starting point, and I really see it as a very basic test. Semen analysis is telling you, right, how many sperm have you got? Are they swimming in the right direction, and what shape are they? But it doesn't tell you anything about the guy's overall health, doesn't tell you about the DNA integrity of that sperm, doesn't tell you about possible, sexually transmitted infections, just the history of, undescended testicles or anything like that. That's not been investigated. There's so much more that a guy could be done. So really, I think if you're doing a kind of comprehensive panel for a guy, and this is certainly what a urologist would be looking at, is, okay, yes, you have a semen analysis, but that's done in collaboration with, or in partnership with, an infection screening, DNA fragmentation, maybe an oxidative stress test, a physical examination, maybe an ultrasound, and a good medical history. When you do all of that, you've got a much, much better picture of where that guy is. And that, to me, is really a comprehensive fertility assessment. But the problem is, as I say, we can't get that on the NHS at the moment. So a guy has to go and source this stuff privately at the moment.
And let's not forget as well the importance for some men to have an hormone profile.
Yes, that's the one I missed. You're quite right. Yeah.
And I think, not as a gynecologist, if I split my role from that of a fertility specialist, I would investigate fully a female patient coming to clinic. And I would certainly be doing an hormone profile, would be doing an ultrasound scan, a physical examination, vaginal swabs. But you're absolutely right. When it comes to a man, in probably 95% of cases, the first and only test is a semen analysis, without making an attempt to understand if there is a problem. But also by not investigating whether the semen analysis per se is not giving a full picture, because, as you said, having normal sperm parameters does not indicate that there is normal fertility potential.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very, very basic assessment.
Absolutely. So what, in terms of improving sperm health, what can men do to get that better?
Well, this is the thing, yeah, and this is what I love about working with men, is there's so much that can be done, and sperm are generally very easily influenced by some very, very simple changes. sperm, as we know, are kind of on about 60 to 90-day kind of production cycle. So give yourself 3 to 4 months of key changes, and you may well see a big change in your fertility. So for me, the kind of easy wins are, but it's all the stuff that you do find online. It's common sense stuff. So it is a really good kind of clean, sensible diet. So stripping out, processed meats and sugars, limiting caffeine and alcohol, definitely quitting smoking, recreational drugs. So, a good clear up in that sense. Making sure you're exercising regularly, making sure you're staying well hydrated. All the things we've heard around kind of heat. So laptops and mobile phones in pockets and cycling, and if you're a chef and all that kind of stuff. These are really, really simple wins that could potentially make a big difference. And I think if you've got a couple and a guy who's, maybe a bit suboptimal around his sperm parameters, I would always say, right, let's start there. Let's do a full review of your lifestyle, diet, stress factors. Let's make sure you've done everything you can in that, because they're really easy wins. If you do that and retest 3 months later and we see an improvement, then we know that was the factor. If you do all of that, or you're already doing it and you haven't had the other assessments that we've talked about, then it's okay, right, let's get those done and see if they're a factor. So you marry the two together. You do the lifestyle, the diet, the stress, all of that stuff, and the testing. You've then got a whole picture of that guy and what he can do. So, there's all sorts of simple little tricks and wins. And I've worked with guys, and, getting them to take a cold shower after, they've been at work because their work environment's really hot, making sure a guy's ejaculating regularly, every 3 to 5 days, making sure they've upped their kind of tomato intake to get the lycopene, the antioxidant quality, fresh fruit and vegetables, and cutting out the processed stuff. Really, really simple wins.
Good. Thank you very much. And just coming to the end of our webinar, Ian, if you could give a man some tips, important tips, just a few tips, to be take home messages, what would those be?
I think one of the top ones is probably a top 3 or 4 for me, but definitely reach out and get support and talk to somebody. I've just spoken to so many men who it's taken a lot for them to come and work with me or talk to me, or it's taken a lot for them to come to the support group, but never has a guy said to me, "Oh, I wish I hadn't done that." Talking about it really does make a huge difference, and getting that peer-to-peer support and knowing that you're not alone is probably one of the biggest things you can do. It will take a massive weight off your shoulders. It doesn't necessarily fix everything straight away, but that's an absolute, absolute positive step that any guy can take. So if that's coming along to the infertility support group, then do that, and you can turn your video off and stay anonymous, but just you'll get support. So that's one of the top things, is make sure you're talking to somebody. Second top thing, would be get tested. So actually, if you've not had an advanced male fertility assessment, looking at oxidative stress, DNA fragmentation, hormone profiles, and what have you, then seek that out and get that done. You will then have a proper picture of your fertility. And then, the third one is work on lifestyle and diet. It does have an impact. It is important. Much as there could still be something going on when you have your other assessments, such as varicocele or infections, dormant infections that need to be cleared up, or there's a history of undescended testicles, so therefore your sperm production isn't as strong as it could be. Having a good lifestyle and diet is still going to make a difference to the sperm that are there, or it's going to improve. If you've got a reasonably good sperm count, it's going to make it even better. And let's not forget, poor sperm quality or male fertility issues are linked to other health issues later in life. So actually getting on top of this now, whilst you've got these markers that are saying that there's something not right, is going to stand you in good stead for the rest of your life. So yeah, it's going to be talk about it, get some support peer-to-peer, get tested, and sort out diet and lifestyle.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for your contribution, Ian. I'm sure
My pleasure.
that our audience will be enjoying this webinar, and I would like to invite you just as at the end of this webinar, just to give information about your own practice and where men can find you. So I leave it to you for a couple of seconds.
Brilliant, thank you. Obviously, naturally, you can find me online, hovefertilityandwellness.co.uk. You can find me on Instagram as well, Ian_Stones_. I have a practice in Hove, I have a practice in Farnham in Surrey, where I work with people one-to-one. But equally, I can work remotely, via Zoom, as a lot of us do these days. And I offer a 1-hour male fertility assessment, and I can offer kind of one-to-one coaching over a period of time. So if you want to find out more, just get in touch, and there's always a free chat available just to see if I can help in any way. And thank you very much, Luciano, for this time.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.